Well, hello. I kind of had some technical difficulties. So I'm coming live from my office and um, let's see here if I can. I'm not going to see any comments or anything. Um, I'm going to check my phone and see if there are any comments there. Okay. Um, so today I just wanted to take some time to answer some questions I've received as of late and um, just talk about grief and loss. Um, I'm not used to looking at the little webcam at the top, so if I'm looking down, that's because I'm looking at myself and not the webcam. Anyway, all right, so I do have some notes here, and I guess I'll just dive right in. So one of the questions I've received is, how do you pick which loss to work through first? And um, I think when you're going through the grief recovery method, by week 4 or 5, that generally comes to the surface naturally as you're going through the homework each week. But not going through grief recovery, what to work on first. I just don't think it's possible to work through grief on our own because it's giving our grief a voice that helps us move through it. So what to work through first, especially if you have had many losses, I've had many losses, just one by one. And in the grief recovery method, we talk a lot about, well, I think once you do, part of the method is you do a loss history graph. And when you see your history of losses right in front of you in black and white, generally there's a theme and there's like you can connect the dots between the losses. And at least speaking for myself, that's how it was. Generally speaking, it's the relationship that with someone who raised you, but not always. But that's really without going through the method, it's really hard to tell somebody what is your most important loss. I don't know that, and only you can answer that. But generally speaking, too, it's the loss that has the most emotional energy, that holds the most emotional unrest. And you can't be wrong. I mean, working through a loss is always a good thing, regardless of which loss you work on first. There was another question. Okay. I have my faith. It is what has gotten me through some of the most difficult challenges. Why do I still feel this pain? I can personally speak to this. I felt like I had really come a long way in my spiritual and religious faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but just my spiritual I just felt a deeper connection to God than I had in my 20s. But, you know, all the praying and everything that one does doesn't always get us relief. So the reason why you still feel the pain and why I did myself was because there was still things that I was emotionally incomplete with. But imagine if your spirituality and faith could be deepened even more. I think that's what happened for me in the grief recovery method, is that my spirituality and my faith actually became even more deeply it just really deepened my faith even more so. Actually, this next Friday too, my blog post is actually just about this very topic. So check into that. There's one thing too. I have a note, is that God never forces healing on you, and even when you're hurting, you must want to get well, and you must make the conscious choice to do that. So it's really about us sweeping our side of the street so that He can do His work within us. So we have to want to help ourselves. So prayer is wonderful, and it serves you in a positive way. However, it's not taking the action of actually working through the emotional incompleteness. Okay, let's see if I can see if there's any questions or anything. It doesn't really show. I can't see any comments or anything, so I apologize. It's kind of different on the desktop. Before it would have comments and stuff. On the phone I would see. I can't even see if anyone's on here. So another question. My husband and I would like to participate in your grief recovery program. Can we do it together? The Grief Recovery Institute doesn't recommend spouses doing grief recovery together because really that needs to be a space of total honesty. And depending on the dynamics of the relationship, it could negatively influence your experience if your spouse is in participating with you. Because what if the relationship they choose to work on is the one with you? So, or with the spouse. So it's really not setting up the environment for total honesty. And that's why it's just best if spouses do not go through the method together. Here's another question. My husband died unexpectedly several years ago, and I'm still grieving. There are days I can barely function, and others where I just get by. I'm so angry at him and God. I'm seeing a therapist and talk to friends who are still willing to listen, but it's not helping. Is this normal? What can I do about this overwhelming sadness I feel? The only thing that helps me cope is sleeping or watching TV. Okay, so STIRBs are short-term energy relieving behaviors, and they're things that we do as grievers to relieve ourselves of the buildup of emotional energy that is caused by the death of someone we love and are grieving. The problem with STIRBs is that they're short-term, and there's no long-term relief when we use up energy to distract ourselves from our pain. And it doesn't make the pain go away either. So anger is a STIRB. And the problem is the more you spend your energy to express your anger, the less time you spend on what could help you discover and resolve what is left emotionally unfinished for you with the relationship. So, like sleeping and TV are also very typical STIRBs because they're non action activities. And two, they do nothing to complete your what is emotionally unfinished. In grief recovery, there are actions that give you the opportunity to complete the pain and anger that you feel. And it can't bring your loved one back, but it can give you your heart back and have a life of meaning and value, even though your loved one is gone. And I personally had a lot of anger, and we always look for someone to blame, and this method just really drilled down on me having to take ownership and responsibility for my reaction and doing something about the anger. Okay, so moving on. How do I get on with my life when I feel so heartbroken? I feel like a hamster on a wheel. Losing my son 5 years ago has devastated me every day since. This is a nightmare I'd never wish upon anyone. Why him? You can ask that question a million times and still be angry over and over, and the questions and feelings don't go away. The more you get caught up in the questions and the feelings of anger, the more you develop a relationship or identity with your pain. So when the relationship to your pain is so strong, you naturally don't want to give it up. The pain masquerades as love for the person who died, but it isn't really love. It's just pain. And even if you were to accept that that is the truth for you, at this time, that knowledge doesn't even do anything for you because you're only now aware. It's the discovery that matters, but discovery without recovery or completion has limited value. So it's the actions that you take moving forward that will get you beyond the anger and the pain. In order to have real changes in how you feel and live your life, you have to learn to take the valuable actions of grief recovery. And as you do, you'll find that the pain and anger and tears diminish. And you'll find that you'll no longer have the need to ask those questions that can't be answered. So in the future, when you're thinking about your loved one, you're thinking about the fond memories, and it's not always a fond memory turning sad or you becoming angry all over again and finding yourself in this downward spiral of, when you're trying to think of the person or your loved one as the good times and the memories, once you process those feelings, you're not going to be taken back in time. And that's really what grief recovery allows you to do, is to move forward, not dwelling on the negative and, the ruminating story that we have in our minds. So actually, those were all of the questions so far. Let's see if there are any questions live. I don't even know if I can see those. Let's see. Whoops. Let me look and see on my phone if I can see any questions. Well, I don't see any questions on my phone, so I hope that was helpful in answering some common questions, actually, that might even apply to you or your situation. And if you think of anything, you can always email or message me. I do want to mention one thing. I actually posted a giveaway today, and you can win a free copy of the Grief Recovery Method Handbook. And it's going to go through next Thursday, and I will mail the book to whomever wins. I will put a link to the sign up page for the giveaway at the bottom of this post, this video, and also probably pin it to the top of the page too, so it's easy to find. But easy entry. I love this book. I actually read it prior to going to getting certified, which was a good thing because I ended up getting terribly sick the very first day, like both ends. It was terrible. But this is what the program is based on, is this book. And although when you read it, you can't go through the method alone, it's more about grief than probably 98% of the population. So highly recommend. There's also a When Children Grieve book, which is excellent as well. And I thank you for watching, and I hope you register to win. And have a good rest of your Sunday.